Imagine building a business inside a marketplace you do not control. You create the product, you write the software, you find the customers, you take the risk. But before your product reaches millions of people, it must pass through someone else's door. That door sits inside the device almost everyone carries. It decides what can enter, what can be displayed, what can be purchased, and how the transaction is completed. To the consumer, it looks like an app store. To the developer, it can look like distribution. But economically, it is something more interesting: a gate. And whenever an entire market has to pass through the same gate, the owner of that gate acquires leverage.
The genius of a digital marketplace is that it does not feel like infrastructure. It feels like convenience. You open your phone, you search for an application, you tap a button, the software appears, the transaction happens almost instantly. For the user, the experience is nearly frictionless. But behind that simplicity is an economic architecture. Someone controls distribution. Someone defines the rules. Someone provides the payment infrastructure. Someone decides what developers must agree to before accessing the audience. This is the difference between a product and a platform. A product creates value for the customer. A platform creates the environment in which other businesses can create value. And once enough businesses depend on that environment, the platform itself becomes an economic asset. Now consider the economics. A platform does not need to charge every participant an enormous amount to create enormous revenue. It only needs scale. Thousands of developers, millions of customers, billions of transactions. A percentage taken from each transaction can become economically significant when the underlying market becomes enormous. This is one of the most powerful characteristics of digital platforms. Their infrastructure can be reused across millions of transactions. The marginal cost of processing another digital purchase can be relatively small compared with the value moving through the system. So the platform does not simply participate in commerce, it can position itself between the buyer and the seller. And every transaction passing through that position creates an opportunity to capture value.
Then comes the obvious question. If the platform takes a share, why don't developers simply leave? Because distribution has value. Millions of users are already there. The payment system already exists. The operating environment already exists. Trust already exists. Discovery already exists. And consumers have already developed habits around the platform. Rebuilding all of that somewhere else is not a simple technical decision. It is an economic decision. This creates a powerful dynamic. Developers may dislike certain platform rules and still remain inside the ecosystem because the ecosystem provides something they cannot easily reproduce alone: access, scale, distribution, convenience. The platform does not need to force every participant to stay. The network itself can make staying rational.
This is where the platform becomes more powerful than a simple marketplace. Network effects begin to appear. More users make the platform more attractive to developers. More developers create more applications. More applications create more reasons for users to stay. More users generate more transactions. More transactions make the ecosystem more valuable, and the cycle reinforces itself. This is why digital platforms can become difficult to displace. The competitive advantage is not always hidden inside the software. Sometimes it is hidden inside the network. Once the network becomes large enough, a competitor is no longer competing against one product. It is competing against an ecosystem.
But money is only one layer of platform power. Rules can be even more important. Platforms define technical requirements. They establish payment policies. They create review systems. They determine how applications interact with the ecosystem. They can change the conditions under which businesses operate. This is a fundamental feature of infrastructure. The owner of the infrastructure does not simply provide access, it defines the environment around that access. And when millions of businesses operate inside the same environment, a policy change can have effects far beyond a single company. The platform is no longer merely participating in the market, it is helping design the market itself. The strongest platforms do not necessarily lock users inside with a physical barrier. They create economic gravity. Your audience is there. Your reviews are there. Your distribution is there. Your payment relationships are there. Your business processes are there. And over time, more of your operation becomes connected to the ecosystem. Leaving, therefore, becomes more than deleting an application. It can mean rebuilding distribution, rebuilding trust, rebuilding payment infrastructure, rebuilding customer relationships. This is what lock-in looks like in the digital economy. Not a wall, a web of dependencies. And the more dependencies a platform controls, the harder it becomes to replace. This is the moment the economics change. A marketplace can become infrastructure when enough economic activity depends on it. At first, the platform is simply a place where applications are discovered. Then it becomes a payment layer, a distribution layer, a trust layer, a customer acquisition layer, a technical layer, and eventually it becomes part of the architecture of the business itself. This is how digital companies can become infrastructure without owning the businesses that operate on top of them. They do not need to own every restaurant. They can own the marketplace. They do not need to build every application. They can own the gateway. They do not need to employ every developer. They can control the environment in which developers compete. Now follow the value. A consumer buys something digital. A developer creates it. A platform distributes it. A payment system processes it. The developer receives revenue. The platform captures its share. And the ecosystem continues expanding. This is the deeper economic principle. Wealth does not always accumulate where the product is created. It can accumulate where transactions are organized, where access is controlled, where distribution is concentrated, where millions of individual exchanges pass through the same infrastructure. That is why platform economics matters. The product may change every year, the users may change, the developers may change, but the infrastructure connecting them can remain remarkably durable. And durable infrastructure can produce durable economic leverage. So what is the App Store really selling? At first glance, it sells applications, but its deeper product is access. Access to users, access to distribution, access to payments, access to a trusted ecosystem. And once millions of businesses depend on that access, the platform acquires something more valuable than a storefront. It acquires position, a position between creators and consumers, between products and distribution, between businesses and transactions. That is the architecture of a digital toll booth. The power does not come from building every product that passes through the gate. It comes from owning the gate itself. And this is the pattern Nexera keeps returning to. The greatest economic power often sits one layer beneath the visible product, because when everyone needs the system becomes the business. And when the business becomes infrastructure, the infrastructure becomes power. Nexera, decoding systems, architecting wealth. Nexera. decoding systems, architecting wealth,